Hello and welcome to day 9 of the trading series. This series will be reviewing for you all of the trades that were taken in November of 2024 during Season 7 Strategy Wars. During this Strategy Wars, I was actually working with the team called Wave Rider. It's an indicator that we offer at the trading floor called Wave Rider. And I was also on the concept team for price action. So that's what you're kind of seeing in this markup here if you're like looking at the letters and what do they mean. It's just saying that I was on the Wave Rider team and also on the price action team. What you'll see here that I'm going to show you is actually using two different time frames. I was using a 5-minute time frame to identify a pattern. I'm also going to show it to you just because it's a little easier to identify. And then I'll show you the 1-minute time frame where I drop down to that just to get a bit of a better entry. And this trade was taken on the US 30. I showed this in the day 7 video as well, that I kind of was jumping to US 30 for a little bit just because I was finding that I was getting a little bit of a better entry versus the NAS 100, where some of the moves were already happening or being played out already. And I didn't want to get in late. So I was kind of going back and forth between US 30 and NAS 100 throughout this month, just seeing like where would I find my better entry. That's pretty typical for me to do when I'm looking at the US indices and deciding like which one I want to trade that day. So for this particular day, it was US 30 again as well. And if you did watch the video that I posted yesterday, day 8 of this series, you'll kind of know that I was working with a bearish bias. It has been a bearish bias that's been happening since November 11th. So this is now the third day of that bias that we've had, the higher time frame trend. And so it was kind of already identified for me. I already knew what I would likely be looking for when I came in if there was consolidation. And that's what I end up doing here. So let's get into the actual markup and what it is that I saw. All right, so here we are on the US 30 on the 5-minute time frame. And what you can see here is this was our trade from yesterday. So if you guys were looking at day 8's video, that's our trade there. And then this is what the market did overnight, just so you get an idea. Kind of that typical thing that I've been showing, where Tokyo into early London, they just kind of consolidates. The market starts going a little bit more horizontal. And then usually around the beginning of London into New York opening, you'll start to see some movement and a breakout happen. And for people like me who are breakout traders, this is really ideal. So you want to kind of wait for that to happen, wait for this like consolidation to die off and be able to look for those breakouts. And yeah, so that's what I was doing here. So I was in a little bit earlier here on this particular day, not actually entering in earlier, but just at the charts to analyze them a little bit earlier. And I actually came in around this bearish candle. I did have an alert set at this resistance that I have marked here. And I had an alert set, so I was peeking at my phone to see what it was. So that actually gave me a little bit of time. Each one of these candles is 5 minutes, remember? So I did have a little bit of time to get to my computer and figure out what it is I wanted to do. But as soon as I saw this happen, I was definitely waiting to see like this candle close pretty strong. And I figured that I may be forming a head and shoulder pattern at this resistance level, because you have your first shoulder here, consider the head. And then usually when that happens, in order to know that you're forming potentially head and shoulder before it's actually formed, you'll see like a really strong candle that would print in the reverse direction, kind of forming the momentum for the head to drop down and create that next shoulder. And that's what happens here. So around this point is where I figured we might be doing that. So I continued to watch a little bit, started like messing with my positions and getting ready to figure out what lot I want to use and all of that stuff. Where would I put my hypothetical stop loss at the time? So I still was kind of playing out the markup game here. But then as that like next shoulder was forming, I was able to really like figure out where things were going to go. So because of that, I was able to get in. I did get in a little bit later down here. Talk about this a lot. I am a pretty cautious trader when it comes to certain things, and I definitely like to take higher probability trades. So I did wait to definitely make sure this was a full-on head and shoulder pattern. So don't just get in because you think it's going to be a head and shoulder pattern here, because it really could just be market structure being made, and it could have just blew you out and made a whole new higher high, and that would have been bad for you. So you definitely want to wait for the pattern to be completed before you get in. I did do that here. It was completed probably actually around this candle, but I did wait one more to make sure that I was going to get the full breakout of the zone that I had marked here. I wanted to be breakout plus a head and shoulder pattern plus the higher time frame, stronger overall bearish trend that we had seen. So I wanted all of those I was hoping for all those confluences to happen, and that's why I did wait for this bearish candle to start forming. I was lucky those 5 minutes that I was able to enter in a little bit earlier when it was retracing, and that's where the 1 minute time frame comes into play. But I wanted to show you guys what the 5 minute like chart looked like because that was really where I was like, okay, the 5 minute time frame has that head and shoulder pattern. Now, we're on the 1 minute here, and the head and shoulder pattern still exists on the 1 minute time frame, but sometimes it can look a little more like clustered, like together, maybe a little more like busy, I guess is the right word. So it's not always as clear to see it, but this is the same yellow lines that are marked on the 5 minute, just so you have reference of what the market looks like on the 1 minute. But the pattern is still there, as you can see. And I did drop to the 1 minute time frame once I knew I was getting in, just to see if I could get in a little bit of like a better price point, and I was able to. So I got it at this area here of price, which was just below the zone. So the breakout did happen, and I was waited for that breakout to be confirmed, and then I was able to get in. Usually happens like here at the close of this candle, but again, these are 1 minute time frames, and I only move so fast. So I got in on the formation of the next candle by the time my trade was actually in, and my markup like quickly was adjusted and thrown in and stuff. So that is what that trade was looking like. As far as my stop loss and take profit go, I was using the high of this wick for my previous shoulder. I was contemplating going all the way up to the top of the head, but I didn't do that. I did feel like it was like a little bit of a retest because we did have this area where we came down, broke out a little bit, came back in, touched here, and then did another breakout. So I was pretty confident that I could probably keep my stop loss like just above the previous shoulder, the very first shoulder's high 'cause I was almost positive that we retested here. But again, this is the 1 minute time frame. Sometimes the 1 minute time frame isn't the most accurate with retesting. You can get like, higher time frame or a deeper retest. But I was hoping that I was okay here because of that. And that's was why I put my stop loss there instead of all the way at the top. And the other reason was is I did kind of get in, like the move was pretty strong, a strong bearish move. I did get in a little bit lower than I would wanted, and the stop loss and risk to reward that I would have had to go all the way to the top wasn't quite as appealing. And like I said, I was pretty confident that I was good here with that retest already. So I was happy to keep that stop loss just slightly above that first shoulder in case it did decide to come back and like play again in here a little bit before breaking. But with this first initial break and then this really strong break again, I was pretty confident. So anyway, that's where I kept my stop loss. And then as for my take profit, I was down at this area here to capture wicks that were to the left. So some liquidity that was sitting over here that hasn't been captured yet. So you can see that the market did pull back into, you had this gap that we had talked about in a previous video. Market comes in and pulls back into there to grab that, but there's still orders that are sitting here that haven't been touched in this little shaded box area because the market comes up and then it's just kind of hanging out in this area, but never during this whole time during that day did it ever come down here to grab these wicks that are here. So that is liquidity that's sitting there. And essentially, what I figured is if the market was going to be going bearish again and pulling the market down with it would probably be looking to target these wicks, and that's what I was looking for. So I've talked about this before. I don't usually go to the very bottom of a wick and capture like the itty bitty bottom of it to get every little penny that I can. I'm pretty cautious with this stuff. I usually just go for the more probable take profit, which was the start of those wicks. And it's kind of at the top of this area too that you can see to the left. So this is the more probable take profit zone for me to get to. And that is what I targeted. So it was a 1.8. And clearly, I could have gone pretty far with this one as well. But as I've been saying during this series, it's really not my thing to just trail these like massive rewards. I'm much more of a like in and out type of trader, especially during strategy wars. I like to get in and out, get my points for the day and be done. It's what I do well with. So, I'm happy with this trade. A 1.8 reward for the day is great for me. So, you'll see, it was the, $1,865.16 that was added to the account for that day. So, that was good enough for me to be done for the day, and, that is it for this trade. So, that is it for day 9, and I will see you guys tomorrow for day 10.